Hello guys and welcome back to the UtdDistrict YouTube channel, and the January transfer window is here and we're here to tell you all about what United are planning in terms of incomings and outgoings across the month. Now of course Sir Jim Ratcliffe and the Ineos team will be taking full control of the sporting department at Manchester United, but they've got to wait for the Premier League approval process to approve that bid for them to fully get their feet under the table. But there are reports to do with the documentation of their deal with the Glazers, which basically explains that there aren't any real decisions to do with the sporting side over this next few weeks that won't be consulted by Ratcliffe and his team. So they might not have their feet fully in, but they will be addressing each decision that the club are making over these next few weeks. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there will be that many in January, because The Athletic have reported that it's unlikely that United can do anything else than 1 or 2 loan deals, and that is due to spending regulation with FFP as they wait for this deal to be ratified with Ineos. And so in terms of incomings, there doesn't seem like there will be that many, but we'll focus on what there could be more of in terms of loans and maybe permanent sales is outgoings. And I think that is where United will be more busy in this next month. Now, first of all, the first player that you'd think will be a priority to deal with in this window is Jadon Sancho. He hasn't played for Manchester United for around 4 months now, since he released that statement after United's loss against Arsenal in early September. And you need to get rid of him, whether it be on a loan deal or a permanent. And reports have made it seem that the most likely option is a loan deal, with United covering quite a lot of his wages, which are very expensive and probably something which is a barrier in selling him this month. So you'd assume that United would look for an option to move him on a loan deal whilst paying some of his wages, and have another look at that in the summer to hopefully move him on if the situation stays the same. In terms of another player that is in sort of a similar situation to Sancho in the loan respect is Anthony Martial. And of course, a move on a permanent basis this next month would be near on impossible for Martial, simply because of his injury record, his wage bill, and the fact that he hasn't really shown that much quality after these recent injuries in the last year or so. So it would be a big gamble for a club to take. It's more likely that United are going to see his contract out until the end of the season and he leaves on a free transfer. But you could imagine them trying to work at some sort of transfer out to get him out of the club for a fee before the end of the season. Of course, that would mean a striker slot would be open and hopefully a signing made, but we'll speak about that a little bit more in a minute. But in terms of loans, for younger players, there's quite a few in action. There's Dangor, of course, really talented player. Came through the youth academy with Kobbie Mainoo, playing alongside him in the FA Youth Cup final that they won a couple of years ago. They were both in the midfield together, and really good pairing. Of course, everyone's seen Kobbie Mainoo and everyone's really excited about what kind of talent he can be. But Dangor's very good as well, and he's a very versatile midfielder. But with the amount of games that United are playing, and that's a really important factor, I think, with a lot of these deals which are going to be made in this January transfer window. United are only playing 2 competitions. They've been knocked out of Europe and they're out of the Carabao Cup, so there's not many games to focus on. And so I think United will be looking to trim their squad. And quickly talking, that's what's already been done just now. Sergio Reguilon, David Ornstein has reported that his loan has been ended at United. The club have decided to trigger the clause to send him back to Spurs this month, and we're going to be seeing a few bits and pieces of that, I think, over the next month, of those fringe players. And Dangor, he's been in the squad a handful of times this season, made 2 appearances, including his Premier League debut only a couple of weeks ago for the club, but it's likely that he's going to be heading on loan. And the Manchester Evening News have reported that Preston North End Championship Club are interested. So that could be an interesting move. Of course, Alvaro Fernandez was there last year, So there could be some positive developments being made between the two clubs there. Of course, David Beckham, all those years ago, headed off there. So it could be one to watch as Dan Gore looks to get some more first team minutes ahead of potentially trying to get into the squad properly next year. And just quickly, because I've finished the video up here, about to pack up, and we've seen another update, and it's to do with Dan Gore. So Chris Wheeler has tweeted that Dan Gore has got that interest from Preston, but United could prefer a move to League One rather than the Championship with Preston to guarantee Gore some more minutes in the team across the second half of the season, which could end up being a sensible move. So we'll have to wait and see with that one, but it does seem like Preston might not be the only option for Gore. The other kind of academy work is that Joe Hugel seems like he'll be sent on loan to a League 2 or League 1 club, and that could be a good move. He's doing quite well in the PL2 this season, but he seems like he's above that level now and needs some sort of test at the first team level again after somewhat of a failed loan move last year. So that could be one to watch out for. And Charlie McNeil going the other way. He's United's young striker on loan. He's going to be coming back from Stevenage and going to be staying in the academy, probably to see what kind of progress he's made over the last year or so, because he's had 2 loan spells out. Not many goals, but United probably want to see where he is. Maybe get back into academy football more and see if he can improve that way. And finally, the Manchester Evening News also reported that it's likely that an academy goalkeeper gets sent out on loan, whether that be Radek Vitek or Dermot Mee, who have both been training with the first team squad in recent months. Now moving forward a little bit to Hannibal, who's sort of a fringe player at the moment. Earlier in the season, it looked like he might be able to break through after an impressive performance away at Burnley, whilst United's midfield were trying to sort things out basically, and they still kind of are, but it doesn't seem like there's going to be much opportunity for him. Since that Burnley game, there's been few chances in the league. He started both Carabao Cup games, but of course United are now out of that competition, so it seems like a loan deal will be made for him, and that's actually what he seems to be searching for. He's decided to not go to the Africa Cup of Nations with Tunisia after basically releasing a statement on social media saying that he had a conversation with their coach and how it was the best move for him, essentially, something along those lines. But it seems that he wants to be available for a club throughout January and February, because of course that would be a sticking point if he was looking to go on loan this coming month. So he's made that decision, and it seems like there's a few clubs interested in him. Fabrizio Romano has said that Sevilla, Freiburg and Lyon are 3 of the clubs interested in a potential loan deal for Hannibal this month. And he's also looking likely to get that extension, the 1-year clause that United put in every player contract on earth. His deal's running out at the end of this year, and it seems that United will trigger that 1-year extension and then send him on loan to get some more first team minutes. And another midfield player in sort of a similar situation to what Hannibal was is Donny van de Beek, who has had his move to Frankfurt confirmed in the past couple days. It's a perfect move for him simply because there's opportunities for first team football there, and he hasn't been getting that at United. Maybe a couple of starts this season. You can't really remember them because they come so few and far between for Donny van de Beek over the last few years since he signed for United. So he's a similar kind of player who was on the fringes, maybe would have stayed if United were in 4 competitions at this point in time because of those injury troubles that have haunted them so far this season, but only 2 competitions and there's a lot of midfield players in there, and Erik ten Hag and the United team probably feel that it's the best decision before they probably look to move him on a permanent deal in the summer. And Van de Beek's another example of a player who United probably can't move on a permanent basis, and that hurts them in terms of incomings because his wages are way too high for the sort of player that he is. But yeah, that seems like the majority of the business that United are going to do this coming month. Of course, watch out for the youngsters that the club might think deserve a loan, or certain clubs come in and they might think that it's a good fit. There can always be extra players who get sent out on those kind of loans, but it seems like there's a lot of departure work in terms of loans going on, but in terms of incomings, not so much. A striker seems to be the only real option that United will go for in this summer, and that will have to be on a loan basis if we take into account the Athletic report, and Fabrizio has backed it up. So it looks likely that it's loans only, which makes it a difficult task. Of course, you cast your minds back 12 months and we were doing this exact same thing with Wout Weghorst and Marcel Sabitzer. They both came on loans because United could not afford to do permanent work because they were focused on this bloody takeover process, which is just about to come through. We're almost there, but yeah, it's loans only, which is obviously a plug hole. Of course, a couple of months ago, it was stated by the Daily Mail that United would be looking for this sort of striker to back up Rasmus Højlund, who's struggled to score goals in the Premier League this season, and he's got a couple of injuries. He came to the club with that back injury, and it had to be nursed quite sensibly. And now they don't want him, even though there is only 2 competitions, they don't want to rely on him starting every week up front or having to move positions around, because we know Rashford is not the same player when he plays through the middle, and we don't really know many others who can make that move to a central role. So it will be a discussion point, and a striker will come in, and the kind of options discussed by Fabrizio Romano recently include Timo Werner, Marlin at Borussia Dortmund, and of course Choupo-Moting at Bayern Munich, who's not really getting much game time right now, but those are the kind of options that have been kind of linked with a potential United move on probably a loan basis, as I said. So it's not looking too promising there. Obviously, an extra body will help. I think even though Weghorst wasn't amazing last season, the body helped United kind of end the season more strongly than they would have if he wasn't there. But it's just not great to see the kind of level of player that United are going for, simply because they have to go for these loans and they don't really have the cash. And of course it's January, so it's harder to bring top quality people in. But we knew this in the summer. We knew that Rasmus Højlund wouldn't be able to get through the whole season on his own. It seemed like a really good idea when it was kind of spoken about that United would be looking at buying 2 strikers, one young, one experienced. But we're here now, and it's kind of like we knew the mistake was coming, and now we're trying to rectify it in the worst way, really. But it's where the club's at the moment, and until Ineos are in and trying to make improvements, it's kind of what you have to deal with. And moving on from strikers, we will look at defenders. Of course, a centre-back is kind of a priority for United, and Fabrizio Romano did previously report that United were looking at bringing in an important defender in the next 2 windows, one of the next 2 windows, and it seems more likely that it will be the summer window. But we will look at the kind of names that have been discussed, and of course some of those have been making kind of murmurs in January with other clubs, so we'll take a quick look at that. But centre-back is a position needed. We've basically just got the news that Raphael Varane will not be offered a new contract at United on the same wages that he's currently at. His deal ends at the end of this season, and there's of course, like I said, the option to extend it by a year, but United have rejected that. They're not going to go with that option, and they'd rather try and look to negotiate a lower deal on lower wages for Varane. Victor Lindelof, meanwhile, has had his contract extended as per David Ornstein on that 1-year deal. He was in a similar position to Varane, but on much lower wages and not in such an important squad role. I imagine Varane is an important player, but those kind of injuries which have been plaguing him in recent years have made it difficult for United to probably justify him being one of the biggest paid players at the moment. So they'll try and work that out. Harry Maguire, he was wanting to be sold, or United fans and the club wanted him to be sold in the summer. Of course, he's had a few very, very, very good months coming back. In recent months, he's now injured. You'd like to think that he'll come back and kind of continue on that. But United really should be looking to move him on in the summer and try and get some better younger players. Maguire's entering his 30s. He's still, even with this improved form, not really at the level required for United. And you wouldn't really think that he he wants to be that backup. So, of course, there's strength in depth and everything, but you'd want to try and get a commendable fee, especially after a good season this year. That's what United don't do enough of, selling players after they've kind of got their value up a little bit. And get him gone in, try and get a younger player in who might be able to improve more in the coming years. And then, of course, you've got Evans, who has also had a good season so far, considering United fans didn't think he'd play over a couple Premier League games, let alone how many he's played already. I imagine 10 to 15 plus. You cannot imagine he's still here come the end of the season. It was a one-year deal. It was kind of an emergency deal after he just joined the youth side to help them during pre-season while we had no club. You'd imagine that he's not going to be here next season. So essentially that guarantees just 2 first-team centre-backs next year, and hopefully, obviously, Willy Cambuala has impressed in a couple of appearances. Maybe he could kind of come in as an extra option there. But there's 2 defenders there who need to kind of be dealt with if Varane's contract isn't sorted and if Maguire ends up leaving the club in the summer. That brings upon targets, and it seems like the main one for United is Jean-Claire Todibo. He seems like the main option, and he's been getting interest from both Spurs and Chelsea in recent weeks. Spurs seemed to be focusing on the French defender to come in and support their depleted defence, as they've had a lot of injuries back there. But it seems like, for whatever reason, I think because of how long the deal might take, that they kind of looked elsewhere, and they're looking to get in another defender now. But recent reports have also linked Chelsea with the defender quite strongly as well. But the latest reports from Romano basically state that United are really unlikely to be kind of moving for that centre-back over the coming month. So they'll be hoping that Todibo is still an option come the summer. I think Fabrizio added that it's a likely option that Nice try and keep him for the rest of the season. And then they can revisit that in the summer. And of course, he's at Nice. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Ineos, they're at Nice. It kind of seems like a transfer waiting to happen. So we'll have to watch this space with that one. It will be a fair few months until we see something with it. But Todibo's not the only option that United are looking at in that position. Fabrizio, a few weeks ago when he was speaking about the centre-backs, did name Antonio Silva, Edmund Tapsoba, and a couple of others as options. But right now it does seem like the main man for that position could be Todibo, and that is something promising for United. Hopefully they move forward with that deal, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be this month. Now, just to recap, it seems that United are going to be letting a lot of loan players leave, maybe a couple of permanent transfers if they can muster up anything, and a couple of loan deals at most. So it's unfortunate for United, especially after the start of the season, but hopefully they can kind of make some developments in the coming months. Of course, Lisandro Martinez is coming back, Casemiro, Mason Mount. Hopefully they can try and end the season strong and see what Ineos have in the summer, because I don't know if anyone else has, but I'd highly recommend checking out some Sir Dave Brailsford kind of interviews or podcasts or anything like that. He seems like a really interesting bloke, and he's going to be Sir Jim Ratcliffe's right-hand man at Old Trafford. And he seems like he's got some definitely interesting kind of approaches. He was really successful with British cycling. Hopefully he can bring that to United. But yeah, hopefully they can improve things going on, because it's not looking too great right now. But yeah, that's it. We're just finishing this video off. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you kind of learnt a couple things about how United are going to approach this month. We'll be keeping you up to date day to day on our Twitter account, or X, or whatever it's called now, UtdDistrict, and yeah, other social medias, Facebook, Instagram, if you want to check it out. But yeah, that's all for today's video. We'll try and keep you updated throughout the month on the YouTube channel if you want to subscribe, and like the video if you've enjoyed. But yeah, we'll see you in the next one.